Hello everyone, and welcome back to JJ Academia, your favorite channel for insightful analyses and educational content. Today, we'll delve into a fascinating short story titled, With the Photographer, which is given in the English Literature textbook, Treasure Chest of ICSE Grade 10 students. With the Photographer revolves around a narrator who visits a photographer to have his photograph taken. However, the experience turns out to be far from ordinary as the photographer's meticulous approach and the narrator's dissatisfaction with the process unfold. Before delving into the detailed explanation of the story, let's know more about the author of the short story, With the Photographer. Stephen Leacock, a renowned Canadian writer, humorist, and economist, is best known for his witty and satirical works that often explore the absurdities of everyday life. Born in 1869, Leacock gained widespread acclaim for his humorous essays and short stories, which frequently featured sharp observations on human nature and society. The Photographer, one of Leacock's lesser-known works, showcases his keen wit and ability to dissect societal norms with humor and insight. Through the story, Leacock offers a humorous yet thought-provoking commentary on identity, self-perception, and the pursuit of perfection in the realm of photography. While The Photographer may not be as widely studied as some of Leacock's other works, it nonetheless exemplifies his distinctive style and thematic concerns. Leacock's writing continues to entertain and resonate with readers, making him a beloved figure in Canadian literature. Here is the detailed explanation of the short story, With the Photographer. Make a note of important points or underline the keywords or key points. "I want my photograph taken," I said. The photographer looked at me without enthusiasm. He was a drooping man in a gray suit, with the dim eye of a natural scientist. But there is no need to describe him. Everybody knows what a photographer is like. "Sit there," he said, "and wait." I waited an hour. I read The Lady's Companion for 1912, The Girl's Magazine for 1902 and The Infant's Journal for 1888. I began to see that I had done an unwarrantable thing in breaking in on the privacy of this man's scientific pursuits with a face like mine. After an hour the photographer opened the inner door. Explanation. The story begins with the narrator wanting to have his photo taken by a photographer. The photographer seems uninterested and tired, resembling a drooping man in a gray suit, with the tired eyes of a scientist who studies nature. The narrator is asked to sit down and wait. He waits for a long time, feeling like it's been forever. To pass the time, he reads old magazines from different years. Among them are The Lady's Companion from 1912, The Girl's Magazine from 1902, and The Infant's Journal from 1888. Each magazine offers a glimpse into a different era, allowing the narrator to escape momentarily from the monotony of waiting. As he waits, he starts to feel bad for interrupting the photographer's work with his ordinary-looking face. After waiting for what feels like a really long time, the photographer finally comes back into the room. "Come in," he said severely. I went into the studio. "Sit down," said the photographer. I sat down in a beam of sunlight filtered through a sheet of factory cotton hung against a frosted skylight. The photographer rolled a machine into the middle of the room and crawled into it from behind. He was only in it a second, just time enough for one look at me, and then he was out again, tearing at the cotton sheet and the window panes with a hooked stick, apparently frantic for light and air. Then he crawled back into the machine again and drew a little black cloth over himself. This time he was very quiet in there. I knew that he was praying and I kept still. When the photographer came out at last, he looked very grave and shook his head. Explanation. The narrator follows the photographer's instruction and enters the studio. He obediently takes a seat in a spot illuminated by a beam of sunlight filtered through a sheet of factory cotton covering a frosted skylight. Once the narrator sits down, the photographer gets busy with an old-fashioned camera. It's big and looks like something from a cool adventure movie. The photographer crawls inside it to make some adjustments, like a mechanic fixing a car. Outside, the photographer seems to be struggling, maybe with the lighting or something else. It's like he's wrestling with a tough problem. Finally, after a while, the photographer comes out looking serious. He shakes his head, meaning something isn't quite right with the setup. Now, let's understand how this old camera works. It's like a big box with gears and knobs. The photographer adjusts these to get the picture just right. Then, they crawl inside to take the photo. After that, they develop the picture to see how it turned out. When the photographer finally emerged from the camera, he looked very serious and shook his head. It seemed like he wasn't happy with how things turned out. Maybe the picture didn't come out as he hoped, or there was a problem with the equipment. Whatever the reason, it was clear that the photographer wasn't pleased with the outcome. "The face is quite wrong," he said. "I know," I answered quietly, "I have always known it." He sighed. "I think," he said, "the face would be better 3/4 full." "I'm sure it would," I said enthusiastically, for I was glad to find that the man had such a human side to him. "So would yours. In fact," I continued, "how many faces one sees that are apparently hard, narrow, limited, but the minute you get them 3/4 full they get wide, large, almost boundless in," but the photographer had ceased to listen. He came over and took my head in his hands and twisted it sideways. I thought he meant to kiss me, and I closed my eyes. Explanation. "The face is quite wrong," the photographer said, expressing his dissatisfaction with the way the photograph turned out. "It seems like he didn't capture the image he wanted or that there was a mistake in the process." This statement suggests that the photographer is disappointed with the result and may need to make some adjustments to get it right. "I know," I replied softly, acknowledging the photographer's critique. "I've always been aware of it." This response indicates that the narrator is not surprised by the photographer's assessment of the photograph. It suggests that the narrator is perhaps self-aware of their perceived imperfections or shortcomings in appearance. The photographer sighed, showing he was a bit disappointed. Then he said that it might be better if the face in the picture was shown from a slightly different angle, called 3/4 view. The narrator, feeling glad that the photographer seemed more human, agreed with him happily. He even complimented the photographer's own face, saying that some faces can look better from certain angles. But the photographer had stopped paying attention. With a dramatic flourish, he approached and took the narrator's head in his hands, dramatically twisting it to the side. Caught off guard, the narrator, misunderstanding the gesture, braced himself, thinking the photographer was about to kiss on his cheek. With a mixture of surprise and embarrassment, the narrator closed his eyes tightly, ready for the unexpected encounter. But I was wrong. He twisted my face as far as it would go and then stood looking at it. He sighed again. "I don't like the head," he said. Then he went back to the machine and took another look. "Open the mouth a little," he said. I started to do so. "Close it," he added quickly. Explanation. After anticipating a possible kiss from the photographer, the narrator realizes they were mistaken as the photographer instead twists their face to one side for examination. The photographer doesn't seem happy with how the face looks. This makes the narrator feel disappointed and unsure. After saying he didn't like head, the photographer goes back to his machine like a scientist in his lab trying to solve a puzzle. He really wants to find the perfect picture. He tells the narrator to open his mouth a little, then, he changes his mind really quickly and tells him to close his mouth instead. This funny moment shows how careful the photographer is about getting the perfect picture. Then he looked again. "The ears are bad," he said, "droop them a little more." "Thank you." "Now the eyes. Roll them in under the lids. Put the hands on the knees, please, and turn the face just a little upward." "Yes, that's better." "Now just expand the lungs. So. And hump the neck, that's it, and just contract the waist, and twist the hip up toward the elbow, now. I still don't quite like the face, it's just a trifle too full, but." Explanation. Then he took another look at the face of narrator, like a detective inspecting a clue. "The ears are not good," he remarked, "let's make them droop a bit more." "Thank you," he added politely, as if the ears were listening. Next, the photographer turned his attention to the eyes of the narrator, saying, "Let's roll them under the eyelids." He asked the narrator to put his hands on his knees and tilt his face up a bit as if he was trying to catch a glimpse of something in the sky. "That's better," he said with a nod of approval, like a teacher pleased with a student's improvement. Then, with a mischievous twinkle in his eye, he instructed him to take a big breath, puffing out his chest like a superhero. He told him to hump his neck and squeeze his waist, like he was doing a silly dance move. Then he urged him to twist his hip toward his elbow, like he was trying to tickle himself. But even after all these funny adjustments, he still wasn't satisfied with the face of the narrator. "It's still a bit too full," he admitted, scratching his head with a puzzled look. But he didn't give up, determined to make the photo perfect, like a magician trying to pull off the greatest trick. I swung myself round on the stool. "Stop," I said with emotion but, I think, with dignity. "This face is my face. It is not yours, it is mine. I've lived with it for 40 years and I know its faults. I know it's out of drawing. I know it wasn't made for me, but it's my face, the only one I have." I was conscious of a break in my voice but I went on, "Such as it is, I've learned to love it. And this is my mouth, not yours. These ears are mine, and if your machine is too narrow," here I started to rise from the seat. Explanation: as the photographer kept changing things in the photo, the narrator started feeling more and more annoyed. He didn't like how the photographer was trying to change his face. Finally, he couldn't hold it back anymore. Suddenly, the narrator turned around on the stool to face the photographer. His voice was shaky, but he spoke firmly. "Stop," he said. "This face is mine, not yours. I've had it for 40 years. It may not be perfect, but I love it." The narrator's voice trembled a little, but he kept going. "These are my features," he said, sounding stronger now. "My mouth, my ears, they belong to me." Standing up from the seat, he showed that he was proud of who he was. He wanted the photographer to know that he wouldn't let anyone else change his appearance. In that moment, the narrator showed that he accepted himself just the way he was, flaws and all. It was a brave moment, showing that he was happy with who he was. With a sudden snick sound, the photographer pulled a string, taking the photograph. I could see the machine still wobbling from the surprise. "I think," said the photographer, his lips pursed in a pleased smile, "that I captured your features in a moment of animation." "So," I said sharply, "features, huh? You didn't think I could look animated, did you? But let me see the picture." "Oh, there's nothing to see yet," he said dismissively, "I have to develop the negative first. Come back on Saturday, and I'll show you a proof of it." Explanation: with a sudden snick, the photographer quickly snapped the picture, surprising the narrator. The sudden click of the camera left him feeling both surprised and a little annoyed. He wasn't ready for the photo, and seeing the machine wobble made him feel even more irritated. It felt like his moment was taken away from him before he could even react. "I think," said the photographer, smiling proudly, "that I captured your features looking lively." He sounded very pleased with himself, like he did something amazing with the photo. The narrator's response was sharp. "So, you didn't think I could look lively, did you? But let me see the picture." His voice had a hint of defiance, refusing to accept the photographer's assumption about how he looked. The photographer replied casually, "There's nothing to see yet. I have to develop the picture first. Come back on Saturday, and I'll show you." It seemed like he didn't understand how eager the narrator was to see the photo. Even though the narrator was frustrated with the photographer's attitude, he still felt curious. He really wanted to see how the picture turned out, even if he was a little nervous about it. On Saturday I went back. The photographer beckoned me in. I thought he seemed quieter and graver than before. I think, too, there was a certain pride in his manner. He unfolded the proof of a large photograph, and we both looked at it in silence. "Is it me?" I asked. "Yes," he said quietly, "it is you," and we went on looking at it. "The eyes," I said hesitatingly, "don't look very much like mine." "Oh, no," he answered, "I've retouched them. They come out splendidly, don't they?" "Fine," I said, "but surely my eyebrows are not like that?" "No," said the photographer, with a momentary glance at my face, "the eyebrows are removed. We have a process now, the Delpide, for putting in new ones. You'll notice here where we've applied it to carry the hair away from the brow. I don't like the hair low on the skull. Explanation: on Saturday, the narrator returned to the photographer's studio, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. The photographer motioned for him to come inside, but something seemed different this time. The photographer appeared more serious, as if he had a big secret to reveal. The narrator couldn't help but wonder what awaited him. As the photographer unfolded a large photograph, they both leaned in to take a closer look. "Is it me?" the narrator asked, feeling a bit unsure. "Yes," the photographer replied in a hushed tone, "it is you," and they continued to inspect the photo together, like detectives examining a mysterious clue. The narrator couldn't help but notice something strange about the eyes in the photo. "The eyes," he pointed out tentatively, "don't look very much like mine." The photographer admitted it with a hint of pride. "Oh, no, I've retouched them. They turned out splendidly, don't you think?" He sounded almost like a magician boasting about his latest trick. "Fine," the narrator reluctantly agreed, but then he couldn't resist asking, "But surely my eyebrows are not like that?" "No," the photographer admitted with a quick glance at the narrator's face, "the eyebrows were removed. We have a process now, the Delpide, for putting in new ones." He spoke as if revealing a well-kept secret of the photography world. "You'll notice here where we've applied it to lift the hair away from the brow. I prefer the hair higher up on the forehead," he added with a mischievous twinkle in his eye, as if sharing a secret tip for looking fabulous. "Oh, you don't you?" I said. "No," he went on, "I don't care for it. I like to get the hair clear back to the superficies and make out a new brow line." "What about the mouth?" I said with a bitterness that was lost on the photographer. "Is that mine?" "It's adjusted a little," he said, "yours is too low." I found I couldn't use it. "The ears, though," I said, "strike me as a good likeness. They're just like mine." "Is it me? Is it me?" "Yes," said the photographer thoughtfully, "that's so. But I can fix that all right in the print. We have a process now, the sulfide, for removing the ears entirely. I'll see if." Explanation: the author, feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief, challenges the photographer's decisions. It's like a heated debate where both parties are determined to defend their points of view. The photographer remains unfazed, explaining his preference for a certain hairstyle and eyebrow shape. It's like listening to a passionate artist explain their vision, even if others don't quite understand it. When questioned about the mouth, the photographer admits to making adjustments because he didn't think the author's original mouth was suitable. It's like having a tailor alter a garment to fit better, even if it means changing the original design. The author tries to find some semblance of familiarity in the ears, but the photographer suggests removing them entirely in the final print. It's like realizing that even the most familiar features can be altered beyond recognition in the pursuit of perfection. "Listen," I interrupted, drawing myself up and animating my features to their full extent and speaking with a withering scorn that should have blasted the man on the spot. "Listen. I came here for a photograph, a picture, something which would have looked like me. I wanted something that would depict my face as heaven gave it to me, humble though the gift may have been. I wanted something that my friends might keep after my death, to reconcile them to my loss. It seems that I was mistaken. What I wanted is no longer done. Go on, then, with your brutal work. Take your negative, or whatever it is you call it, dip it in sulfide, bromide, oxide, cowhide, anything you like, remove the eyes, correct the mouth, adjust the face, restore the lips. Reanimate the necktie and reconstruct the waistcoat. Coat it with an inch of gloss, shade it, emboss it, gild it, till even you acknowledge that it is finished. Then when you have done all that, keep it for yourself and your friends. They may value it. To me it is but a worthless bauble." I broke into tears and left. Explanation: the author, overwhelmed with frustration and disappointment, finally reaches his breaking point. With a surge of emotion, he stands up straight, his face contorted with righteous anger. It's like watching a dramatic scene unfold in a movie, with our hero delivering a powerful monologue that should have left the photographer speechless. He passionately expresses his desire for a photograph that truly reflects his natural self, a simple yet meaningful memento for his loved ones to cherish after he's gone. It's like pleading for authenticity in a world that seems obsessed with perfection and artificial beauty. But as he realizes that his plea falls on deaf ears, the author's despair deepens. He sarcastically urges the photographer to go ahead with his ruthless alterations, listing off absurd ingredients like sulfide, bromide, oxide, cowhide, as if to emphasize the absurdity of the situation. It's like a dark comedy where the absurdity of the situation hits you like a punchline. In the end, overcome with emotion, the author breaks down in tears and leaves, his hopes for a genuine portrait shattered. It's a poignant moment that reminds us of the importance of staying true to ourselves, even in the face of overwhelming pressure to conform to society's standards of beauty. That's all about the explanation of the story with the photographer. Now, let's summarize the story in 30 important points. 1. The author wants his photograph taken by a drooping photographer. 2. The author waits for an hour in the photographer's studio. 3. He reads old magazines while waiting. 4. The photographer finally calls him in. 5. The author sits in a beam of sunlight. 6. The photographer rolls a machine into the room. 7. He crawls into the machine and emerges quickly. 8. The photographer frantically adjusts the window and sheet. 9. He goes back into the machine, possibly praying. 10. The photographer comes out looking serious and shakes his head. 11. He criticizes the author's face. 12. The author agrees but adds a positive remark. 13. The photographer ignores him and twists his face. 14. The photographer is dissatisfied with the result. 15. He directs the author to open and close his mouth. 16. The author questions the changes made to his features. 17. The photographer plans further alterations. 18. The author asserts ownership of his face. 19. The photographer takes the photograph without warning. 20. He claims to have captured a moment of animation. 21. The author sarcastically comments on the features. 22. The photographer promises to show the proof later. 23. The author returns on Saturday to see the proof. 24. The photographer shows him the photograph. 25. The author doubts the accuracy of his eyes and eyebrows. 26. The photographer reveals retouching and removal of features. 27. The author questions the authenticity of the photograph. 28. The photographer suggests further alterations. 29. The author expresses frustration and leaves in tears. 30. He feels his desire for a genuine photograph has been ignored. Now let's go through the important key words of the lesson and their meanings. Please copy it down for your better understanding, even though you know some of them already. 1. Photograph, a picture taken with a camera. 2. Enthusiasm, excitement or passion. 3. Drooping, hanging or sagging downward. 4. Studio, a room where photography or other artistic work is done. 5. Beam, a shaft of light. 6. Filtered, passed through a medium to remove impurities. 7. Skylight, a window in the roof to let in natural light. 8. Machine, a device with moving parts designed to perform a task. 9. Frantic, wildly excited or anxious. 10. Quiet, making little or no noise. 11. Grave, serious or solemn. 12. Adjust, to change or alter. 13. Full, completely filled or occupied. 14. Human, having qualities or characteristics typical of humans. 15. Stool, a seat without a back or arms. 16. Emotion, a strong feeling such as happiness, sadness, or anger. 17. Dignity, the quality of being worthy of respect or honor. 18. Negative, an image recorded on photographic film or paper showing light and shade reversed. 19. Develop, to process photographic film to make a visible image. 20. Proof, a test print of a photograph for checking quality. 21. Unwarrantable, not justifiable or excusable. 22. Privacy, the state of being free from public attention. 23. Scientific, relating to or based on the methods and principles of science. 24. Pursuits, activities or interests someone spends time doing. 25. Superficies, the outer surface or appearance. 26. Sulfide, a chemical compound containing sulfur. 27. Bromide, a chemical compound containing bromine. 28. Oxide, a chemical compound containing oxygen. 29. Cowhide, the skin of a cow. 30. Animation, the state of being full of life or excitement. 31. Bauble, a small, showy ornament of little value. 32. Tears, drops of water that come from the eyes when crying. 33. Resentment, bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. 34. Vanity, excessive pride in one's appearance or achievements. 35. Insecurities, uncertainties or doubts about oneself. 36. Authenticity, the quality of being genuine or real. 37. Imperfections, flaws or weaknesses. 38. Self-acceptance, the act of recognizing and embracing one's own qualities and characteristics. 39. Conformity, compliance with standards, rules, or laws. 40. Quirks, peculiar or eccentric behaviors or characteristics. 41. Perfection, the state of being flawless or without faults. 42. Individuality, the quality or character of a particular person or thing that distinguishes them from others. 43. Alterations, changes or modifications made to something. 44. Contorted, twisted or bent out of shape. 45. Ridiculous, deserving or inviting derision or mockery, absurd. 46. Intimidation, the act of making someone feel frightened or threatened. 47. Resilience, the ability to recover from difficulties or setbacks. 48. Authentic, genuine, real. 49. Prejudice, preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. 50. Misconception, a view or opinion that is incorrect because it is based on faulty thinking or understanding. 51. Transformation, a dramatic change in form, appearance, or character. 52. Artifice, a clever or cunning device or expedient, especially an elaborate or dishonest one. 53. Vanity, excessive pride in or admiration of one's own appearance or achievements. 54. Artificial, made or produced by human beings rather than occurring naturally. 55. Uniqueness, the quality of being the only one of its kind, distinctiveness. 56. Paradox, a seemingly contradictory statement that may nonetheless be true. 57. Portrayal, the act of depicting or describing someone or something in a particular way. 58. Enhancement, the action of improving or increasing the quality, value, or extent of something. 59. Realism, the quality or fact of representing a person, thing, or situation accurately or in a way that is true to life. 60. Authenticity, the quality of being genuine or real. To wrap things up, we hope you found this video helpful in understanding the story better. We followed along with the author's funny and touching adventure in the world of photography, which showed us how important it is to be ourselves and accept who we are, even when the world expects us to be perfect. As we look into the meanings of the words from the story, let's remember these important lessons and be proud of our own quirks and imperfections. Thanks for watching, and see you next time for more learning adventures with JJ Academia.